Hey everybody, two Alpha Gals here. I'm Debbie Nichols.
And I'm Candace Mathis, and you're listening to In the Tall Grass, where we're sharing stories of reinvention, resilience, and rediscovering joy.
Whether it's facing Alpha Gal syndrome or any other redefining chapter of life, we all have to learn how to navigate the journey through the tall grass. So here we go. Hey everybody, we are here today with Suzie Carpenter, co-founder of Savor by Suzie. And we are so excited to have Suzie here on the show with us today. We met Suzie at Expo West, a couple months ago at this point, and we were immediately drawn to her and her good heart, her amazing heart, and the work that she's doing with her company, Savor by Suzie. Suzie, it's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
This is wonderful to be here with you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, can we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and really why you started Savor by Suzie?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my husband and I started Savor by Suzie together. My family owns a pretzel factory that was my father bought the pretzel factory in 1979. So we have this history of being pretzel bakers. And so when our daughter was diagnosed with autism 20 some years ago, shortly thereafter, she was diagnosed with celiac disease. And so all of a sudden, this pretzel baking, pretzel loving family our world was rocked by, she could no longer have these pretzels. So, her favorite snack, our favorite snack. So we have this history of being in the business of making pretzels. And it fast forward to, 2018, we developed this recipe for the grain-free pretzel. So a certified gluten-free, grain-free pretzel that Kelly could eat. But really with the growing trend of not just snacking, but growing trend of people wanting healthier snacks and people with food allergies, the growing trend, you guys know, of people with food allergies and people watching what they eat and reading ingredients and really wanting to create something that was much more intentional on what ingredients we put in the pretzel and who are we making it for. So Kelly was our model. Kelly was our person, but really she represents a much larger community of people who need and want to eat healthier so that they can be their happiest selves, which was our mantra as we were going through this whole journey of dietary healing with her. So truly developing a grain-free pretzel, Savor by Suzie's grain-free pretzels, was a culmination of our family's journey and saying, okay, we're going to create this brand that the dough of the pretzel is made with the ingredients that I would use in my kitchen, that I'm used to touching and feeling and tasting, and that make us feel good. And then we're going to take that and we're going to create, put it in a bag and put it in stores, but we're going to create a community of autistic adults that work together for Savor by Suzie, but, to create more neurodiversity in the workplace. And then to set that model and say to the world, okay, look, neurodiverse people have a place in the workplace, even if they work differently than other people. 85% of autistic adults are unemployed. So we were like, we need to address this problem. So solving several problems with this product, a need for an allergen-friendly. We make ours in a peanut, tree nut-free facility. There's no dairy, no animal products, it's very clean. In addition to, as I said, the mission around let's employ autistic adults. Again, following what we've been going through as a family, because Kelly, when she aged out or graduated from her school at age 21, had a really hard time finding and holding a job. Again, that statistic of 85% of autistic adults not being able to get and or keep employment. So we really aim to integrate into the workforce, integrate into our company. We're not a nonprofit. So, we are a fully functioning company, but we want to, again, bring them in and have them be employees. So, that's really where our passion lies. And what is, as you said, the heart of what we do is really all about that.
Which is incredibly beautiful. And I think one of the things that really drew Debbie and I into the conversation in talking with you at Expo and learning that, and I'd love to do a little bit of a deep dive, if you don't mind, take us kind of back through at what age was Kelly diagnosed? And then how did you go through that reinvention to really make an impact in the neurodiverse community. I mean, that statistic you just shared, 85%, that is staggering of those in the autistic community that don't have employment at a certain age. So can you share kind of with us that, like, that reinvention period for your family?
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, that statistic includes autistic adults that have gone to college. So as we know, autism is a spectrum. You know,
Right.
it's a wide spectrum, which you know, goes from nonverbal, just does not mean they're not smart.
Yeah.
You know, college graduates that are nonverbal, you know, there are college graduates who are nonverbal. So, you know, really that spectrum is so impactful, I think, in these statistics and in these situations and these, you know, what's happening in the world. But yeah, so when Kelly was diagnosed with autism, it was, you know, she was 4 years old. It was the year 2000. And, you know, we really didn't understand what that meant. And, you know, I mentioned the reference to when it was, because certainly that was a while ago and there wasn't as many resources or communities around autism. So we had to go through that learning process of figuring out not just what autism was and how to treat autism and the various therapies, but also, you know, how does it fit into our family? So I think for me as a mom, that's really a big part of the journey. Was we've got this child with needs, and it was actually presented to us by her preschool. They sat me down and they said, we think that Kelly needs help. And I was like, well, what kind of help? You know, I was completely blindsided, but, you know, it was a Montessori school. I'm of the Montessori mindset, you know, just believing in each child, believing in each person and letting them learn the way they learn, individual, you know, pace, style, all those things. So anyway, that then unfolded into probably a 2-year process of getting a diagnosis. But again, once we had the diagnosis, then at least we could say, okay, this is what we're working with. So we started that whole process of speech therapy, occupational therapy, ABA therapy. And what I learned was, and this is I think a really important lesson for me as a mom, for sure, and hopefully it resonates with your listeners as well when you talk about reinvention. You know, I went into motherhood. Mother's Day was just yesterday. I know this recording will be later, but I did a lot of reflecting on Mother's Day, and it really brought out, like, you know, I wanted to be a mom since I was a kid. Like I was like played with dolls. I was like the maternal instinct kind of person. And then becoming a mom is so different than what you think it's going to be, right? And there's no set of rules, and you can't um, you're not, your kids are your kids, they're not yours, if you're following me. So anyway, I relearned, rethought about what my role was as a mom. And it wasn't about fixing, it wasn't about controlling, it was really about bringing her out. So how could I best bring out Kelly? And therapies are typically doing the opposite, or they were back then. ABA therapy is very rote, repetitive. There's no room for emotion. There's no room for objecting to the therapy. You know, you repeat the skill over and over again until you get it. And Kelly did not like that. And so I started to take this role of being her advocate and sort of fighting against some of the people that were the therapists and saying, hold on a second, she has something to tell us. Like, hold on, there's a reason why she's acting this way. You know, if she's tantruming over this, there's a reason why. Let's look at this. What's going on? So honoring Kelly and her sister, she has a sister. So like honoring my children as best I could during that traumatic period, you know, and it was a process. I mean, I went to therapy. I was crying every single day. It was tough, you know, because I didn't know how to make it better. And that as a mom, I think is one of the hardest things when you don't know how to make something better. And how do you cope with those emotions? Because it's hard. So I think for me, falling back on that, of just like honoring Kelly first and saying, this is a young girl who's expressing herself. You know, what does she need to say? What do we need to learn from this? How can we do things differently? As opposed to trying to make her like fit into our world or our mold or our model or, you know, all of that. And I think what's really cool about that is you guys spoke in another podcast about, or one of your guests did, I think it was Dr. Friedman, about core values. You hear a lot about core values, and you know, I think when you can fall back as a person mother or not, but as a person, I'm like, what's important to you? What do you value? And then, adjust your actions according to that. You feel so much more complete. You feel so much more content. And then you check yourself on it. Is this really what I want to see? Is this really what I believe in? That was for me really, really important, because we grow up a certain way. Society has expectations. You're watching your friends parent, your sisters or your brothers to parent. You're watching. There's so many expectations in the world, and when you have something that's different, you have to come to find that space of truth and understanding, and those values that will guide you, be your North Star as you go through. And what we found is those are the very similar core values that we have at Savor by Suzie. Inclusivity is one of our number one core values. And so that's why we say, we bring in an autistic. I'm constantly telling our team, like, here's a person, let's find something for them to do. Instead of here's a job and let's go hire a person, and maybe that person may or may not be autistic. Here's an autistic person looking for work, and they're right here. Let's find something for them to do. So yeah, it's really just been an incredible process. I grew up in a family of 5 girls. We were all born in 6.5 years. So my mom, God bless her, boom, boom, boom. And so I'm the middle. I'm the middle child, and I have a tendency to be very, diplomatic, which can be a good or bad thing. I was sort of the peacemaker. Everybody would come to me. And so those skills, again, carrying those skills into life and saying, okay, it's okay that I'm like that. It's okay that that's my truth. Like, that's who I am. And how do I apply that, to be something helpful in society, not just my family, not just for myself.
There are so many pieces of what you just said that I want to expand on. And the first thing that I'll say is I'm also the middle of 5 girls.
Oh my gosh, see?
Yeah. We were born over a much wider spread, but the same 2 parents. We were born over 22 years, actually, but I'm right in the middle. And so I really understand what you're saying about taking those traits. And it's beautiful to me to see how you are applying them to both parenting from the point that Kelly was born to also running your business, right? One thing that really resonated with me that you said was how you were trying to bring out Kelly versus what really society and the medical professionals were trying to encourage you to do. You were trying to bring her out of herself. That obviously resonated with her. And I say that because there's a quote that's I think it's on your website that we read, where it's from Kelly. It's one of Kelly's quotes that says that she chooses not to let her autism define her. And I would say that is probably a direct result of how you raised her, how you taught her to be. You taught her to be Kelly, not an individual with autism, not a neurodiverse individual. You taught her to be Kelly no matter how Kelly is. And that is what you're also doing with your company too, isn't it? You're teaching these people that they're individuals and there is a place for them and there is something for them to do. And it's just a matter of finding it. And I just think this is a beautiful culmination of you taking who you are and applying it to all these things and it coming to fruition, right? In this amazing company that's providing these very allergy-friendly, delicious snacks. So I would like to thank you for actually figuring out how to channel all that into that to really make it something valuable and make it something productive and something beautiful and helping other people. And for me, I can't help but acknowledge the parallels to living with alpha-gal syndrome, right? It affects every aspect of our life. It's very different, obviously, than when you're talking about neurodiversity. But with alpha-gal syndrome, it's not just our food, it's our social lives, it's our work lives, it's sort of everything. And sometimes it's hard to be the person beyond the condition. And so, we hear this story about Kelly and how she refuses to let autism limit her potential it doesn't limit what she aspires to do. And this is, I think, such an important message for anyone living with an impactful diagnosis. And I'm wondering now that Kelly's a little bit older, we've heard how you supported her through the diagnosis, through school. How do you support her now through this?
Yeah, well, so Kelly, she works for us at Savor by Suzie, and she started working for us when we launched our brand, and we launched our website. We were shipping products from our website, which we still do. All of our orders on our website are fulfilled by our 100% neurodiverse team. So whenever anybody orders from our website, I tell them, same with Amazon, frankly. If you want to buy from Amazon, that's fine too, because they're doing both. So, but she and I would pack the boxes, and when she first started, she was throwing the bags of pretzels across the room. And she hates when I tell the story, but it's to me, it's so impactful because you have to show the pain, right, and the struggle, to get to the good, because otherwise it's take the good for granted. So, and then she struggled to put the box together. The cardboard's flat, and she had to shape it into the box and tape it into the shape that it was supposed to be, and put the pretzels in the box. Multiple steps. In addition to that, go to UPS or USPS and enter the address and make the label or whatever was going, however the packages were being made. And so she really struggled in the beginning, but she developed this beautiful way of doing it. And I'm going to answer your question because this ties together. The point is me having patience, like me knowing I can pack 10 boxes in 10 minutes. And I can get it done and be done and move on to the next thing. And that's like me. I have hyperthyroidism. It was really bad at that point in time. So like that extra energy of like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to do it now. That revved up feeling. So I had to like give her time and space to figure it out and fall back. It was like, oh my gosh, Suzie, I have to fall back on all those values and lessons that I had learned years ago. It's the same thing. So giving her that time and space, and she developed her own system for doing it, including shaking her hands. It's called a stim, autistic stim, and they do different things. Sometimes they spin, sometimes they clap their hands, sometimes they make noises. So she would shake her hands over every box and say, good energy, good energy, good energy, because she wanted every single customer to get good energy from the box. So I started to get really like, it just helped Savor by Suzie, the brand. It's like it's a living, breathing entity that she was elevating, that she was bringing to life through this good energy, good energy, good energy. So all the time we're interacting with each other around this entity that we want, to create change in the world. So she really mastered that. And then when we started to grow, we developed this team, and she is their leader. She's not there every day because we had to move it to a warehouse that's not nearby, but she is their leader, their mentor, and she, still loves to interact with them and be there with them whenever she can. So now she's taken on the role of marketing assistant. And if you go to Instagram at Savor by Suzie, she is doing all of our posting, all of our commenting, all of our, captions. She's taking the photographs. She's creating the quote slides in Canva. So for me, it was, okay, she mastered this fulfillment. Now let's talk about a transferable skill. Not that fulfillment's not a transferable skill, but in addition, her strengths. Like she loved to draw when she was a younger person. She loved to play a computer game called Sims, like design work. She always had like a flair for design work, and we would joke about it because she would have a tantrum that we couldn't put a spiral staircase in our front hall. Like she had these visions, and if they couldn't come to life, she would be very upset. So, it's really about, bringing out, her talent, bringing out her and letting her explore that and play with that, get comfortable with that. How does that, again, resonate with the brand and what we're trying to do? So she works for our marketing director, which is also another wonderful thing for me, because she's no longer working, directly with or for me, even though we interact all the time. So she has her, and now Olivia, who's our director of marketing, has, the opportunity to learn from an autistic. And she has even said to me, we should have everyone at our company have an autistic working for them, because she's learned so much from working with Kelly. So it's that ability to kind of say the challenge, to say, slow down, give this person a chance. I mean, she's my daughter, clearly, but like, I get frustrated too. I get impatient too, maybe more than Olivia or other people that might work with her. But so that's been the most recent support. stepping back a few steps, when she aged out of her program and was really devastated because she got a job and lost the job right away, I used to be a coach, a nutrition / life coach, and went to multiple programs for that. Really just love that role of helping people. And so, that's not even the right word, helping people, but it's a role that I really enjoyed. And so I kind of took those skills and said, let me apply this to Kelly. Like, how can I help her to tap into what she really wants? What does she want to do? Where does she want to be? Where does she want to go about life? And what does she really care about? She talk about a big heart. She has a huge heart. And she wanted so badly, I think, to be in a Disney movie, not literally, but like the Disney princesses and finding love, and that whole experience of that, I think, was something she wanted to live out. And she had several very bad relationships, abusive. And she would cry and say, how am I ever going to find love? How am I ever going to be in a healthy relationship? So I just encouraged her to write things down, to journal, to read books. And I bought her a bunch of books, and she just did. She spent like probably a year doing it, which again is indulgent on one level, but it was so powerful. She developed a way of creating vision boards, and she made all these vision boards about what she wanted in life. And she has met a young man. They've been together for 4 years, and he's everything she asked for. She had over like 1,000 things on her list. But so again, not to get frustrated with her or to get annoyed with her. I can't believe she's writing down 1,000 things. Just giving her that time and space to figure out what's important to her, what is going to make a difference to her. And if that means it's 1,000 things for her, it might only be 20 for me, so be it. So Kelly has really taught me so much that, I really do believe, I say this a lot, that, our children are our greatest teachers, and she's my greatest teacher. She told me years ago, back to your comment about the, her not letting autism define her. Mm-hmm. She would tell me, she'd say, Mom, she'd observe other people, and she said, comparing yourself to someone else is so unhealthy. Like, you just have to be yourself. And when you compare yourself to someone else, you can't be yourself, because you start trying to be like someone else. And, so really she's taught me so much about, that we're here to support each other. We're not here to be like each other. Like, being different is actually what we're supposed to be.
I love that so much. And I think that's particularly hard in today's environment, where we're told that people are supposed to be one way, that love is often supposed to look one way, that, you go from elementary to middle to high school to college to career to family to, so often things are depicted that it's supposed to be one way. And you have done a beautiful job of reinventing that for Kelly. Like the vision books, the writing, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It didn't matter that the rest of the world said, no, maybe this isn't the way you're supposed to do it at this age. Or this isn't what you're supposed to be spending your time on. But you knew that that was going to be a helpful tool for her. And as a mom, you supported her in that. I love that so much.
I do too. And it made me really think, how amazing is it that Kelly she got that at such a young age. I mean, it took me, say, well into my 30s to like really understand, my purpose, or just doing like that introspection and that deeper dive. I didn't do that at such a young age. I was like doing what Debbie said. It's like you're kind of checking off these boxes and you're not thinking about it on a deeper level. But now Kelly is drawing out the person that she interacts with. And I'm curious to know how she does that. Does she have kind of a system that does they have like a weekly meeting that they get together? Like, how does she encourage others, at the workplace to celebrate themselves? Because I'm sure they all have their unique, as we all do, we all have our uniqueness, right? So how does she have a certain system to how she does that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Somebody just recently said to me, I know Kelly and I were speaking at an event, an autism event pre-COVID, and I just spoke with one of the gentlemen that I had met there, one of the fathers I had met there, and he was telling me, reflecting on it, and he said she has such a way about her. She just has this warm smile, and it's just like this pure heart, and she just speaks from that place. She doesn't have an agenda. And so when we show up at the fulfillment center, she just shows up as herself, but she has this look on her face. I mean, we both do, but hers is more important than mine because I get super excited to see them as well. And, she just, I think that, I don't mean to presume anything because I'm not autistic myself, but I do, from watching Kelly and listening to Kelly talk, I do know that for Kelly, energy is a really big thing. She feels energy. And I think there is another language here with autism, and a big part of it is energy and how they feel other people's energy so sensitively that sometimes it does, throw them off and whatnot. So they feel that energy and they feel that sense of acceptance that just comes through the energy, the look on her face, all of that is so important. And some people feel it more than others. Some people see it more than others. And Kelly is really an energy guru. So that, again, it's got the good and the bad with it. But she just shows up. She shows up, and she's got her, Savor by Suzie t-shirt on, and she's ready to help. She's like, what can I do to help? And so that sense of like, we're in it together. That's what she shows, is like, we're in this together, and I'm here today, and I want to be with you. And then she tells a funny story. Like, one of our workers loves the Victorian period. So Kelly was playing a game on the computer, and all of a sudden these Victorian characters showed up. So she was explaining this to the other worker, this happened, and that she was thinking of her and how funny it was and how she'd love to show her. So they just have like these social moments, but they're respectful of each other and what they like and what they're doing and how they speak. One of them doesn't speak a lot, but he doesn't have much eye contact, but we're always greeted with a big hug. So I just think that level of that, it's just, we're trying to create a trusted, safe space, right? And then take that out into the world and have other companies do the same thing. It's one thing to check a box and say you have a mission and you're giving back to something. It's another thing to say, like, this is how we live our life, and we're gonna actually live this way at work too. So I say that just because I have high expectations. I'm always telling my team, like, we need to do more. We need to do more, our team. So, but stopping to say, what we're doing is really special, and it is making an impact now. If you impact one person, you impacted thousands, because that one person goes out into the world.
I love that. And I have to tell you something funny, because you're talking about, you said you showed up at the fulfillment center, and this is like, I think, the good energy, right? And this conversation, I was like, oh, a fulfillment center. I want to go to a fulfillment center. That sounds amazing. You're talking about fulfilling orders, but I'm like so in this headspace of this good energy in this conversation that I was like thinking of like my own personal fulfillment. So I thought that was really fun.
Yeah,
I love that. That's a good connection. I like that.
Right. Well, and it sounds like your fulfillment center is really serving both purposes anyway. So I want to talk for a second. You have one of the coolest programs I have ever seen in this Autistic Entrepreneurs Contest, which I stumbled across on your website. Can you share with our listeners about that contest and how it fits into your mission?
Absolutely. So we want to have impact in the autistic community, and we decided we wanted to do that in multiple ways. So we do give back to organizations, with donations of product and or money, events throughout the year. So that's like one container, one way that we give back. And then we have our fulfillment center, because truly, again, we're not a not-for-profit. So, we give them the time and the space to fulfill orders at their own pace. And we bring in schools to bring in students for work experience, and we give them product and say, take the boxes and the product back to the school and they can practice there. So we have that relationship. And then the third, which is the one you mentioned, the contest, I said to our team, I said, I really want to also impact an autistic individual that's trying to create their own business or is already in business. So we came up with this idea of having a grant and giving money to an autistic, either budding entrepreneur, like they have an idea for business, or they're already in business. And so it's not just the grant, though. This is the cool part that I love, is that it includes mentoring. So we have a panel of judges so that we're not just picking the winner here at Savor with Suzie. We invite volunteers from the community that are typically in the autistic community to join our panel and judge the contest entries to pick the winner, or to pick the top 3, something along those lines. And so we asked them, would they donate their time, for a 6-month period, total of 2 hours, and we'll create the needs list of what the winner is interested in getting in terms of support. So last year we did that, and the winner, last year was our first time doing the contest, and the winner's mom told me that it was the most transformative experience for him to have the mentoring. So that's out to me like a super important part. I mean, the grant's awesome and lovely. It's $4,444 because that number represents like support, and it's an angel number that, overcoming challenges and things like that. So that's how we came up with that number. And then again, the mentoring was just, and every time I would mentor Brent, the winner, that would be like my best day of the week. I would just be so happy that I had that time with him. So it's a very, very special thing. It's very personal to me, personal to us. And it's really, I think, again, around like redefining the entrepreneur component. I think a lot of autistics have ideas and they need support. Like Kelly she's a photographer and she has these beautiful photo cards and she sells them on Etsy, but we haven't been able to give her any time to support that business. So if she could win a contest, she can't win ours, but, and have somebody support her, I kept thinking, how lovely would that be? She'd have some extra money to get the business going and also have that support around there's so much, around a business, whether it's online, a service, a product, how do you go about doing that? It's overwhelming. So we do this contest every year in April, and we just have closed the doors today, actually. We go a little bit into May just to, because we always sort of get behind. But so we have 25 applicants, and we'll be announcing our winner sometime in the next probably 3 weeks. So it's very exciting.
That is so exciting. That is so exciting. And we'll have to keep watch to see who wins your contest and what they do with that. And I would encourage any of our listeners to do the same and really see the impact that a program like this has on the neurodiverse community. And, therefore reaching out further into the community, right? Because like, as you noted, every person that you help, every person that you impact, then it impacts multiple people and it just grows in this beautiful exponential way.
Yeah. And it's so awesome to see, Suzie, I'm sure we could sit here and talk about like what brought you to this moment. We touched on that a little bit through Kelly, but I'm sure you've had other experiences in your past that allowed you to step into your passion and be open, to the various experiences that we have as moms and what have you, and honoring your truth. And Debbie and I talk about this all the time because it was huge in our own health journey, but being vulnerable, it's really hard. And that is kind of a foundational step to get to the point of taking the leap into your passion or, speaking your truth. And you've done that so beautifully. And we would love to know, what advice do you have for people on taking that first step to becoming vulnerable and speaking their own truth?
It's a great question. I mean, I think certainly the diagnosis of autism and then the diagnosis of celiac disease and other food allergies and just that whole gut brain connection and, the healthy, all the components around, living with the diagnosis. And, it's a lifelong situation. You have to come to terms with that on some level, right? I mean, I'm sure your listeners can relate to that and you guys can relate to that wherever you are in your journey. It's just really kind of, I think one of your podcasts I listened to, somebody was talking about acceptance, and I thought, it's true. I think you have to get to that point of, I would take it even like a step further. It's like really allowing yourself to realize this is what is going on. And I mean, certainly I think one of the best things around becoming vulnerable is having somebody that you can speak to, whether, you know, you start with a therapist, whether you start with a coach, you have a close friend. I mean, you have to find what's comfortable for you, but it's really, to get vulnerable, you have to really be willing to not be thinking about the comparisons and not be thinking about the expectations. And it's a lot harder to do that with friends, I feel. You know, my friend circle has gotten smaller and smaller over the years, and not really necessarily by choice, but you know, I think really around just that centering into what's important to me and continuing to follow that. And if it means I don't have time to have more friends, but have a few really good friends, then I'm okay with that. So I think really, you know, being vulnerable, there's so many wonderful role models around being vulnerable, right? Thought leaders, writers, books, TED Talks, you name it, that you can go and listen to people and just give yourself that time and space to, I love writing. So for me, like, journaling is huge. I do that on a regular basis. It keeps me in check. You know, I think the more, find activities that bring you into that space of really getting inside, you know, going inside instead of outside. You know, when we watch TV, we're outside of ourselves, you know, we're watching something else. You know, even when we are in a social setting, a work setting, we're sort of outside of ourselves a lot more. Meditation, journal, yoga, you know, reading, watching thought leaders, talking to people, like listening to podcasts. Hello, like you guys, you know, and like some kind of inspirational podcast where you get to not just listen to two people who have created this beautiful community and resources for that community, but you're also bringing in people, you know, like me, but all these experts that you're bringing in, you know, to create that sense of different touch points around, you know, how do I relate? You know, what do I relate to? What resonates with me? Why is it like that? For me, finding truth is about peeling back the layers, getting curious and asking a lot of questions, really just dropping into your heart, get out of your head. Because so often we think we have to find truth in our head, and it's not in our head, it's in our heart. And, you know, that's where the vulnerability lives too. It's in your heart. So, you know, we have to kind of physically, like emotionally go, okay, what's really on my heart? You know, what do I really feel about this? Or what does this really mean to me? You know, and just, again, asking those questions. So a couple of examples around being vulnerable and finding your truth. And Kelly's a better one than me, I think. But, you know, she wasn't going to go to college. It wasn't like in the cards for her, for lack of a better way of saying that. Really, truly, not because of her autism necessarily, but because of the way her brain works and the way she processes conversation, speech, the way she processes information, in addition to the social vulnerabilities. And so there was a period of time where it's like, okay, I'm not going to go to college, but my sister went to college and people my age go to college. Well, the truth is here that actually it's really not for you. And there's these other things that are for you, you know, finding your energy guru talent, you know, and helping people with that and creating beautiful things on Canva and doing all those kinds of things. So another truth, you know, around the allergies, food allergies, right? You know, you go to any social setting, family party, even, like to this day, 25 years later, or almost 25, you know, our family still struggles. So she can't have that, or she can't have this, she can't eat that. And no, she can't. So that goes back to the eat to be your happiest self. I don't know if we talked about that yet, but that was the mantra that we developed years ago around, okay, you're eating differently because you feel better when you eat this way. And so do you want to feel better, or do you want to have that thing over there that the other people are having, and let her make that choice? But, you know, she typically chose to do things that would make her feel better. She doesn't drink alcohol, even if she's at a party where everybody's drinking alcohol, because she knows it doesn't make her feel good. That's her truth. It doesn't make her feel good. And so she says, okay, it doesn't make me feel good. Now I'm not gonna have that. So it's no question, it's a hard thing to do. But I think the more we can sort of be open to learning, because that's what our truth teaches us. You know, it's about teaching us something more about ourselves, something more about how we're supposed to interact with the world, and like why we're here. And it's lonely. There's so many times when it's lonely. I mean, I love what I do. I love what we're doing. But, you know, most days I wake up and I think, okay, we've got to do more. We're not doing enough. And are we really going to make it? It's a, you know, a doggy dog world out there. But the more I lean into my heart and say, I'm doing what I want to be doing right now, and I know I'm doing good right now. So keep going, keep going, keep going. And, you know, whatever happens, we will still have created good in this moment, and we still will have what's on our heart forever. And we can always lean back on that in whatever way we have to.
You had to get really vulnerable to share some of that with us. Thank you so much. That was really good. I loved hearing some of the tools that you have found to be useful. You sounded so much like my therapist. Several things you said, I think, really reminded me of things that she encourages of me. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for being willing to get vulnerable with us. Candace, unless you have anything else, I was going to just go into the last question.
No, I mean, Suzie, you're such an inspiration. Like, seriously.
Oh, you guys.
I think we could have, like, I'd
You're
love
gonna
to
make
have...
me cry.
No, seriously. It's hard. But you were talking about with Montessori, my kids went to Montessori school. I went to Montessori school. And I don't know, it's like cool to see, like, when you can look back and say, I was supposed to be there in this moment of my life to be where I'm at right now. I see and hear that so much in what you've just shared with us in this short amount of time. I'd love to come back to this and bring Kelly into the conversation and talk to her too. I hope maybe we can have a part 2 and talk with her about, you know, all of this as well, if she's open to that. So just thank you for your time. It's been truly awesome.
Oh, you guys are nice. Thank you. I'm enjoying being with you, because you've got being good energy. You've got the good energy, and you're part of the community. It's very similar, and we all, you know, we need each other. You know, I mean, it does. It just gets lonely, and you can think, you know, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know, and that's why even as a company, I like to be more of a conscious, you know, company versus just, oh, we're gonna go get this done as efficiently as we can. You know, most snack companies don't have the history that we have of the family business that we started. You know, when my father bought the factory, it was going out of business, and you know, it was the Bachman Pretzel Company, and we made those for a long time until he died, and then my husband and I bought out the family. And you know, we'd like to bring that into Savor by Suzie, because it's an important part of the legacy of what we're all doing. You know, we didn't just say, which would also be lovely, but you know, let's create a company that helps people with autism. Like that's lovely too. But you know, honoring the family and the tradition and the legacy and how it all, like my husband, I didn't talk about him at all. We don't have to have this in the podcast, but you know, as you talk about Candace, like you look back on life in that moment, and it's like, well, actually, you know, he's a huge part of this story, and he's kind of behind the scenes, so he doesn't really get to be seen. But you know, he was the one in the factory, and he was the one that said, let's make a pretzel Kelly can eat. You know, let's create this. I'm the one that said, let's make it, you know, autism our mission and do all these other things. But you know, we come together. People always ask us, are you a women-led business, a women-owned business? You know, all these benefits to it. And, you know, we say no, but I'm proud that we're not, because we're a team and we work together. We both bring something to the table. Like we're a family, you know, and we do this, we work together. So, anyway, you know, I feel very lucky to have met you guys, because I think your community's another community that I'm just happy to get to know, because that whole loneliness component and the whole, you know, feeling like I don't want to say freak because it sounds bad, but you know, you can when you have a diagnosis. And as I mentioned earlier, Graves' disease, like I spent so much time eating healthy, being Kelly's partner, eating healthy, doing the right thing. And then I got sick. I had AFib like for 2 years straight, all the time. And the Graves' disease, and now it's in my eyes. My eyes are kind of going crazy. But it's like, it was another moment in time, like you said, Candace, another moment in time where I'm like, okay, I'm sure you guys have this all the time, something happens and you're like, that vulnerability and also that like humanness, like that's our humanness, right? And it's like for me, it was like a throw me down off the pedestal because you don't have this figured out. You don't. You
Yep.
thought you did, but you don't.
Yep. I had the
So,
same thing happen to me, and I have Hashimoto's. So when I was really acutely sick, my Hashis flared really bad. So I was this horribly complex web of awful symptoms. So my heart goes out to you. I know how hard it is to deal with thyroid disease. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We could go on, I think, forever. We could just,
I know, right? I know.
we could spin off, and we really didn't talk about pretzels all that much. But, I do love that it does feel, Candace and I always say that it feels a little divine that we became friends when we did right before both of our diagnosis, right? We were new friends when we were first diagnosed, and all the skills and schooling and all these things that we learned growing up and, even in our 20s and 30s seem to have pointed us in the direction where we're headed right now. And that's what it sounds like when you talk about Savor by Suzie, right? Like you just have all these pieces that sort of pointed you to where you're supposed to be. And now you're having this incredible impact on not just the neurodiverse community, but the world, right? Because of that exponential bloom that happens when you impact somebody's life. And so I just think that's really cool. And I'm excited to share this story with our listeners. I have one last question for you. Candace and I love music, right? It's something we can enjoy without reacting to. So it's really important in both of our lives and our lives together too. We enjoy listening to music together. And I'm wondering if there is a song or an artist or an album that brings you joy, either in this moment or for all time.
I love music as well. In fact, it's funny, my kids make fun of me because I always have the radio on, but typically it's, playlist on Spotify or whatever it is. But music's my background. Like that's as opposed to TV. And so music is a soother for me as well. I really enjoy listening to music. And when you told me about that question, I actually wanted to share a story with you because I don't, I, there's I actually feel intuitively guided by music. Like when I'm listening to music, I listen to the words and like certain words will just pop out. I'm like, that's what I'm meant to hear today. Whatever comes on. And I'm like, wow, that's what I'm supposed to be thinking about today. That's what I'm supposed to hear today. And one day I was at our fulfillment center and they had the radio on and the students from our local school were coming in and the song Don't Stop Believing came on the radio. And one of the students came in and he started singing the song. And I hadn't met him yet. And he's this adorable young man. And he just doesn't speak a lot, but he started singing the song and dancing. And he said, "Don't stop believing." But he was saying at the end, he'd say, "In yourself." So he added the "in yourself" to the song. And I just was like, I even get goosebumps as I say it now because it was what I needed to hear. Like I needed to hear, don't stop believing. Like we're doing this. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going, and I'm not sure he knew the impact that it had on me, or even on himself, what he was saying. But, again, the lyrics and the timing is what always, I think, gets me the most, with music.
I hope our listeners took that to heart too, because I find the same thing, that I am impacted by us hearing a specific thing at a specific time. Like, and actually I remember when we first started Two Alpha Gals, I was listening to a lot of Imagine Dragons and I would put that on Pandora and it would pull a lot of other music that was similar to it. And I kept hearing the word glory, glory, glory. And then Candace and I got that from somewhere, like this word glory, like we're going to do this. We're going to figure out how to live a glorious alpha gal safe life. And it was like in that, and so I would text her, I'd be like, it's glorious, I hear it again. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that is a really neat thing, because I think when you start to listen for it, you hear it.
Exactly. And it's not so much about the song itself necessarily, although of course, we love to listen to music for the face value, but yeah. Like anything in life, being intentional and savoring the moment and really just tuning in to what feels good.
I love it.
Love it so much. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. So, well, we hope that we can have you back on again, Suzie. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your heart, sharing your passion, and being authentically yourself. We are just very grateful for you.
Thank you guys for having me, and to your listeners for listening.
Thank you for joining us today on In the Tall Grass. Visit us at 2alphagals.com. That's TWOalphagals.com. Or you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at 2alphagals. If you enjoyed listening, please leave a review and help us grow this community.
We're all faced with obstacles on our journey, whether it be food allergies or tick-borne diseases. You might outgrow the reactions, but you won't outgrow the person you become. Ticks suck, but life doesn't have to.